So, Fadi, where were you born?
I was born in Lebanon.
And how long did you live in Lebanon?
Till I was 23.
And what caused you to leave Lebanon, or why did you come to Australia?
I came to Australia to do my postgraduate degree. I did a master's degree at University of Western Sydney.
And where did you settle when you came to Australia?
Between Roselands and Beverly Hills. Down that way.
Down in that sort of St. Georgie area?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mainly Roselands, but yeah, I lived in Beverly Hills for a while.
Fantastic. Could you not have continued the study in Lebanon?
I could have, but I chose to come here because my initial thought was to come do a postgraduate degree here and go back to teach at uni over there. So
what were you looking to go and teach?
My postgraduate degree was in hospitality management, and that's what my bachelor's degree was in Lebanon in that. So I was going back teaching.
So how come you're still here?
Well, I can go back if you want me to. After my postgraduate degree, I went to Bible college and I met Taman and we got married, and she wouldn't let me go back to Lebanon, so there you go.
Excellent. So has Taman been to Lebanon? Have you shown her around
yes.
where you grew up and home?
Yes, we did go after we got married. We went and stayed there for a few weeks, so yeah.
Yeah. And that she didn't get a taste and a bite and go,
She would love to go back.
Yep.
We were actually planning on trying to go back this year, but things started going downhill over there.
Yep.
And we put that on hold, and then everything else happened.
When you say downhill over there, COVID or?
No, that was before COVID. It's just some political situation over there was not great.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And what are your memories of growing up in Lebanon?
Well, there are some good ones and some bad ones. We grew up during the war, so there was a lot of war memories. There are some good memories just doing things with the family and with friends and stuff like that.
So when you say during the war, give me a picture if Sydney was Lebanon.
Yes.
And we're in Cranebrook.
Yep.
Where would the war have been sort of taking place?
It's difficult to pinpoint it because it was everywhere. Like there would be tension everywhere. But if we were in Cranebrook, at one stage where I was living, the war would have been down in South Penrith.
Right.
So it's just across the road. Yeah.
And who was warring? Obviously the Lebanese. But
yeah, that's right.
What were the parties within the country, the factions that were fighting?
Well, it was a civil war, but part of it was the war of other people in Lebanon. So it was a religious war. It was Christians against Muslims. So if you want to put it that way, I don't know how to describe it other than it was a religious war, and people from one side of the war wanted to take over the whole country as theirs.
Yep. And
the other side was trying to fight to survive.
Yep.
Which was us.
And the nature of Christianity, what's the sort of dominant Christian?
Yeah, the dominant Christian denomination over there, it would be Catholic.
Yep.
However, there are more evangelicals now than what there were before. So, but the majority were Catholic. Even in the constitution, the Lebanese constitution, it's sort of sectarian. So certain denomination or religions get certain positions in government.
All right. So there's sort of positions in government set aside for...
Yeah, so the president, it's a republic, so it's a democratic republic. Yep. The president has to be Christian. The
Right.
Prime Minister has to be Sunni, and the Speaker of the Parliament has to be Shiites.
So Sunni and Shiites.
They're Muslims.
Muslim denominations, effectively.
Yes.
Yeah. So you grew up. You used the "we" before about the Christians. So you grew up in the
Catholic side of things.
right.
Yeah.
And what was church life, church practice like for you as a child in the Catholic Church in Lebanon?
So I went to a Catholic school as well. So we would go to Mass every Wednesday, and then on Sunday we would go to church if that was possible. But when we were younger, we got introduced to the evangelical church, and we started going to that church, like myself, from a young age. Probably was, I don't know, 7 or 8.
So this was with your family?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So we started going to the evangelical church at that age, and yeah. So yeah.
What I mean, it may be hard having been 7 or 8 when it took place, but what influenced your parents to leave the Catholic Church and head to the evangelical church? It seems to me a lot of Roman Catholicism or Catholic Church is you're born into it, and that's a significant part of your identity.
Yeah.
To leave, what?
Well, my parents are still Catholics. We basically started going to the evangelical church because at that time we didn't have a home to live in, so our home was destroyed, and we were living sort of in a school, really.
Right.
And the church came in to basically help us out, to give us supplies, I guess. And through that, we started going to the church. But my parents have never really left the Catholicism.
Yep.
Only myself, and recently, a few years ago, my brother as well got baptized and was saved through.
And what is it that your mum and dad seem to hold dearly from the Roman Catholic practice?
To be honest, I haven't had a conversation with my mum and dad in a long time because I've been here for 17 years. But I guess it's just a tradition for them. That's the church that they were brought up in. And whenever we did speak, and when we still speak, like on phone and stuff like that, when the subject comes along, when the subject comes up, it's more theological issues that they think that the evangelical church has wrong, or has like the wrong view about it. But I think, speaking to even my family here who are Catholic, the thing that stops people coming out of the Catholic Church is the issue of Mary. They have a very unhealthy, high view, unbiblical view of Mary.
Yep.
And I feel like every time I speak to them, especially my family here, about the Bible and those sort of things, there's always the Mary wall that comes up. So it's I believe it to be a spiritual wall.
Yep.
That it's like a spiritual deception that they can't see beyond.
Yeah. Not having ever been within the Roman Catholic tradition, what is it about Mary that's so captivating? I mean, there's a fascination that she's the mother of Christ. She was a virgin birth. There's certain, fascinating dinner party guests, if you could pull a dinner party guest.
Yeah.
But what is it that has such a hold, or what's the preciousness for your family and Roman Catholics?
Well, see, false teachings usually captivate people because it's not. Satan doesn't come knocking on the door and says, "Hey, I'm Satan. Would you follow me to hell?" He doesn't usually do that. Well, the way it's done, the way I've seen it in false teaching, whether it's in the Catholic Church or in the evangelical church, is that they mix truth with error. And it's difficult for people to get out of that because they can still see some type of truth in what they believe. So for them, for the Catholics, they see Mary as someone that can help them get to Jesus. So they see Mary to be a bit more compassionate than Jesus is. And it's not because that's what she is, but it's just because that's what the Catholic Church teaches. They mainly teach that you can come to Jesus through his mother, and they sort of use, for example, the example of the wedding at Cana, where Mary said to the disciples, or the disciples went to Mary and they told her, we don't have any wine, and then she told them to go, Mary came to Jesus and said they don't have any wine. So they take those sort of biblical example, if you want to call it that, and they twist it to teach something that is false.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things that's always felt, I've been just be curious for me, because as I read the scriptures, I don't see much of Mary. You know, there's a few glimpses. I don't even think Mark's Gospel, Mary, the mother of Jesus, I don't even know if she gets a credit in Mark's Gospel. Do they not spend, your experience of the Roman Catholic Church, do they not spend much time actually in the scriptures and reading the scriptures themselves?
You can spend time in the scriptures and come out with whatever doctrine you want. That's not the issue. You have to spend time in the right things to get to the correct conclusion. So the short answer is no. Most of the teachings about Mary come from the Catholic Church, and it's sort of extra biblical teaching about Mary. Like, for example, I don't know if you know, but they believe that Mary was, they call it the Immaculate Conception. So they believe that she was sinless, just like Jesus is sinless, and she had to be sinless for Jesus to be sinless. So they draw conclusions from whatever to come up with their doctrines. So biblically speaking, when I'm speaking to my family, and if I bring up the Bible and I show them things from the Bible, there's that resistance. It's like, no, you're trying to sort of deceive me almost, because what they are taught about Mary is not found in the Bible.
So even if you went to something like Romans 3, and the end of that argument from 1:18 through chapter 2 and into chapter 3, where Paul comes to the conclusion, all have sinned, all have turned away from God, there's no one righteous, not even one. They read that and go, except for Jesus and Mary.
Well, yes, because Mary is the Immaculate Conception, and they rely a lot on extra biblical things. So I can't remember if it's Fatima, where supposedly Mary appeared and she called herself the Immaculate Conception.
Right.
So they have a lot of extra biblical doctrines. So in the Catholic Church, the Bible is not the final authority. There is the authority of the church. So there's the Bible and the church teaching and the church tradition, and they sort of go alongside, so they say. But in reality, the church's tradition sort of trump the Bible. It's like what Jesus said to the Pharisees: you're sort of denying the word of God to follow your traditions, and he would say the same thing to the Catholic Church.
Yeah. So if there was a difference of opinion between the church and the Bible, the church wins. The
traditions of my experience and my understanding of it is that the church is teaching, the church is the one that, the Catholic Church is the one that interprets the Bible. So for me, as a lay person, I have no authority whatsoever to interpret the Bible to anyone. I have to be a priest to be able to interpret
the understanding of the church.
The Bible. Yeah, because I'll give you an example. Part of my life, I went back and I was part of the Catholic Church, and I was a youth leader in the Catholic Church, and we were having a youth meeting, and we were reading the Bible, and I was sort of trying to explain the Bible, and the priest came in and he sort of scolded me for teaching the Bible because I'm not a priest.
Right.
So he's like, well, you have no authority to teach the Bible because you don't understand the Bible. Only the church understands the Bible, and you haven't had the I guess the blessing from the church to teach the Bible, or the okay from the church to teach the Bible. So I had no authority to do that.
So why were you teaching the Bible back in those days? Like, what is that a product of what you'd been modelled in the evangelical church in the school days?
Yeah.
When you were living
Yes. Well, I was at a certain stage in my life, I sort of backslid, but rather I still wanted some sort of religion in my life, and the Catholic Church makes that very easy. It's very easy to be religious in the Catholic Church without being Christian. So I was part of. I went back and became part of the Catholic Church, and we had youth.
How do you religion versus being Christian?
Yeah.
Is that seeing things as Christian being flowing through every part of life, and religion just something you do at different times?
Yeah, so in the Catholic system, religion is something that you do. So you pray the rosary, you go to mass, you do the good things that you're supposed to do. So that's being religious.
Yep.
Yeah. While as a Christian, the Bible says that good religion is, taking care of the poor and the widows and all that. But our relationship with Christ is not a religion.
Yep.
It's we are saved by grace through faith, and that flows into our lives, and we do the good things that we do because He loved us first. So that flows through our life.
Who we are.
Yeah.
And so when you came to Australia to do your masters, where were you at church-wise between evangelical and Roman Catholic?
Yeah, so I was still in the Roman Catholic camp at that stage, but being here all alone and sort of being disconnected from, friends and everyone that I knew and whatever, God sort of used that time to sort of ask me some difficult questions. And one of them, especially because I tried to go to the Catholic Church here, the Lebanese Catholic Church, and they were, I guess when I left Lebanon, the Catholic Church was not as, I guess where I was, they were not as strict or as Catholic, I guess, as what they are here. So coming here, they were very, very religious, very Catholic, very ceremonial. I don't know what the word is. So I guess God made that have a bad taste in my mouth.
So it was just more formal.
Yeah,
than what they did
more
out here, and that
form-
was just uncomfortable for you.
More formal and more against, more anti-Bible in a way.
Right.
Yeah. So we had went to a few meetings and whatever, and things just kept coming up to me, and so I was trying to go back to that, but then I found myself, I guess because I was outplaced, and I'm not in where with my friends, in my environment. Yeah. So it's just I guess I started asking the questions and going back to what I was taught in the evangelical church growing up, and I had to make a decision going, well, where do I stand? Who am I? What do I believe?
When you're saying go back, was that a Christian group at a university, or was it a church, or were you picking up the Bible at home by yourself?
Yeah, I was picking up the Bible at home by myself, and there was some good teaching on TV, some Christian channel, Greg Laurie. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a good teacher.
Yep.
There was like some good talks where I sort of had God sort of used them to sort of speak to me and get me back on the right track. And one night I just went to my room and just prayed and asked God to forgive me and get me back on the right track. And some relatives of mine were going to a Baptist church, and they invited me, and I started going back to that, and yeah.
So then you ended up at Bible College.
Yes.
Which Bible college?
So that was Tabor Bible College, which was a charismatic, non-denominational Bible college. So that was a different thing altogether.
For those of us around Tom's that know you,
yes.
you're we would say you're anything but charismatic or Pentecostal in a lot of your ways and thinking. How did you end up at a Pentecostal college, or how did you end up from there to be where you are now?
Right. So from the Baptist church, I went through friends that I met through work, went to Church of Christ, which was an evangelical church. But again, I was sort of finding my feet back again on where I stand on certain things. And the pastor of that church, he became charismatic, and he was charismatic in his personality anyway. And we were good friends. And I guess I sort of went through with that, through that church. So that church turned into a charismatic church.
Right.
And to be honest, I didn't know anything about charismatic teaching before that. So that was my introduction, and I couldn't discern any better at that stage.
Often, it's not an unusual transition for people to come out of Roman Catholicism into the charismatic church.
I didn't intend to, so I was still trying to go back to...
you were looking to get to the Bible.
That's right. Yeah. And that church sort of, through that pastor, went down that way. And a lot of people in the church left the church because of that, but that's a story for some other time.
So but from there, you got to a point of wanting to go to Bible college, or people were encouraging to go to Bible college?
Yeah, people were encouraging me to go to Bible college, the pastor mainly, because I started doing more talks at church and doing some sermons and stuff like that. And they were like, well, maybe you should go and get some more theology.
Yeah.
That's where I started going to Tabor. I started reading more things.
Okay, and so you're there at Tabor to study the theology.
Yes.
And now you're very conservative, reformed, evangelical.
Yes.
What happened in that time at college in terms of just shaping your thinking about church, about Christian life, the scriptures?
Yeah. Nothing happened at college to help me do that.
Right.
It was more as a certain dissatisfaction over the years with the teachings that I was listening to, and I was hearing, and I was experiencing, and the experiences that I've had in those sort of churches. It's because I really can't say why, but I've always been drawn to Reformed theology from my background, from evangelical church in Lebanon and all that. And
so Reformed as in coming back to those Christ alone, Bible alone, that's right, faith alone, grace alone.
Yeah, that's
those key things from the Reformation period.
That's correct. Yeah. So in the charismatic circles because I stayed in the charismatic church for probably 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would the people that I would read and that I would listen to, some of them were in between, charismatic, but most of them I would say were reformed in their theology, and I would like what they hear there, and I say, well, but maybe you're wrong about the charismatic teachings. But bit by bit, what my experience in that circle and what I read in theology and in the Bible did not match up, but I couldn't put my theological finger on it. But bit by bit, I was starting to draw away from that, especially the last church that I was in before coming to Tom's. I actually preached through the book of Galatians.
If my memory serves me right, you had a bit of a Martin Luther experience teaching through the book of Galatians.
Yeah, that's, if you want to call it that, yes. So I preached through the book of Galatians verse by verse for 2 years. So the pastor sort of handed me that. I was like, you do this. And what I read, what I read, and what I preached and what I prepared and whatever was one thing, and then what I was seeing and experiencing was another. And
when you're saying what you were seeing and experienced, just in terms of church and how church was done, or what
not necessarily
was being
church
said around?
Not necessarily how church was done,
Yeah.
but it's more about what the church, who the church supported, and who they stood for. So some of the people that they would promote were preaching a false gospel as far as I could see.
Right.
And I was reading Galatians where Paul was saying, well, look, if you go that way just a little bit or that way just a little bit, well, I'm not sure that you're a Christian. And that was very heavy on me. And some of the things that they were teaching the kids, I was not happy with. And I think that was the turning point for me and for Taman. It's because I can figure out for myself what's right and what's wrong, and I can sort of go, okay, I agree with this, I don't agree with that. But the kids have no filter. So for me, we had to make a decision to go, no, that you can't teach my kids that because I'm not sure that that's right.
Yeah.
So I had to pull the whole family out, and it wasn't easy. Like that's our friends and our family. You're in that place for 8 years or whatever. They've watched the kids grow, and all of that. So it was not easy. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
On many levels, but it had to be done in that way. I couldn't put my finger on things up until 2013 when I read this book by John MacArthur called Strange Fire, and he had a conference called Strange Fire, and I sort of listened to that conference, I don't know how many times. It's probably around about 40 hours of talks.
Yep.
And this is what sort of helped me put my finger on everything that I knew was wrong.
Yep.
And from there, I started reading more, and God has sort of opened my eyes to different things. So
yeah. But it's interesting because that it was wonderful the way through all of that. There's the scriptures. God keeps pulling you back to the scriptures and going, here's my foundation, and here's the thing that you want to let shape who you are through all of that.
Absolutely, and that was what brought us back. It was the scriptures, because the scriptures, rightly understood, helped me see what was wrong where I was, and with the way I was thinking as well.
Yep.
Because it's not like I was an observer. I was a big part of that in every way, shape or form. So,
Yeah. Well, we've been blessed to have you with us. Tell us favourite.
It's the other way around. I think I've been blessed to be part of this church. So
that's what happens when you're a body. The blessings go both ways.
yeah, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us on the couch. It's been great having you with us.
Thank you for having me.